Fort Branson's flight line stretched endlessly under the merciless Arizona sun, a grid of concrete and steel bathed in heat waves that danced like ghosts across the tarmac. Among the rows of gleaming helicopters sat Viper 12, an AH-64 Apache with a matte black frame that had earned its reputation for lethality. But today, it wasn't a weapon, it was a corpse. For 3 relentless days, the base's top aviation engineers had tried everything: circuit swaps, hydraulic recalibrations, software reboots, diagnostics, and visual inspections. Every attempt failed. Viper 12 remained cold, silent, unyielding. Commander Briggs, a grizzled man with a permanent scowl carved into his face, paced the hangar floor. Sweat ran down his temple, not from the heat, but from the creeping realization that time was running out. "This is impossible," muttered one specialist, tossing a wrench onto a nearby cart. "Every system checks out. Engines, avionics, hydraulics, nothing is wrong." Briggs stopped and turned sharply, jaw tight. "Then why won't it start?" The hangar hummed with tension. Men and women in flight suits and coveralls shifted uncomfortably. Nobody spoke. Everyone knew that if Viper 12 didn't fly in 48 hours, the border operation would be delayed and lives could be lost. A young warrant officer stepped forward hesitantly, voice almost a whisper. "Sir, there's someone. She might be able to fix it." Briggs arched an eyebrow. "Who?" The warrant swallowed. "Me Keller, she's retired, but she's a legend. No one could fix an Apache like her, ever." The room went silent. Even the persistent hum of ceiling fans seemed to hold its breath. Me Keller. The name carried weight. She was the woman who had earned the nickname Iron Hawk after repairing an Apache mid-sandstorm under fire in record time. Her departure left a void no technician had ever filled. Rumors of her skill were whispered across the aviation corps like a myth, some doubting she even existed, until she was needed. Briggs' gaze swept the tarmac, settling on the unmoving Viper 12. He made a decision that raised eyebrows and murmurs. "Get her here now." By evening, as the sky burned orange and crimson, a lone pickup truck rolled across the desert. Dust trailed in a long plume, shimmering in the dying light. Out stepped Me Keller. She was older than the legends claimed, her hair streaked with gray, lines carved deep by years in the sun, and her eyes as sharp as a hawk's. She carried no tools, nothing more than a small leather satchel. Her presence alone commanded attention. Technicians exchanged odd glances. Briggs walked toward her, swallowing a mixture of relief and apprehension. "Me," he said, voice low, "thanks for coming." She nodded once, expression unreadable. Her eyes didn't leave Viper 12. She approached the helicopter slowly, her steps measured, almost reverent. No one dared speak. The only sound was the crunch of sand under her boots and the faint whistle of wind across the hangar. When she reached the cockpit ladder, she paused, running her fingers along the cold metal. Her brow furrowed. "This isn't just a malfunction," she said finally, her voice low, commanding attention. Briggs stopped in his tracks. "What do you mean?" Me stepped back and gestured to the Apache. "This bird is trying to tell you something, something that went wrong long before it came to you." A murmur ran through the technicians. Briggs' hand went to his temple. "Explain." Me didn't answer immediately. She crouched by the landing gear, listening intently, then tapped lightly along the rotor assembly. Her movements were meticulous, deliberate, as if the helicopter itself was a puzzle, a living organism communicating through metal and hydraulics. "Someone's tampered with it," she said finally, "and not in a way that's easy to see, not something a standard maintenance crew could fix." A young technician stepped forward nervously. "Ma'am, we've checked everything. Flight computer, hydraulics, engine, every system is operational. There's nothing." Me's glare froze him in place. "You've looked at everything you thought was wrong. That's not the same as seeing what's actually wrong." She pulled a small flashlight from her satchel and illuminated the Apache's fuselage, moving slowly along panels, bolts, and conduits. Briggs watched in silence, the tension in his chest coiling tighter with every second. After a long pause, Mee turned back to him. Her eyes were grave. "Commander, this wasn't caused by accident. Someone wanted it to fail, but they also didn't want you to know why." The hangar seemed to grow quieter. The air felt heavier, as if the concrete itself was holding its breath. Briggs ran a hand through his hair. "You're saying this is sabotage?" Mee's eyes didn't leave the helicopter. Sabotage is too small a word. This is interference at a level none of your engineers are trained to detect. And if we don't find the source soon— She let the sentence hang, unfinished, but the meaning was clear. Lives were at stake. A sudden gust of wind rattled the hangar doors, and the Apache's sensors flickered to life, lights blinking faintly across the cockpit. No one had touched it. A technician yelped, stepping back. "Sir, it's powering up." Mee's expression hardened. "I was afraid of that. Whoever did this left a way for the system to signal or call for help, and it's waking up." Briggs' jaw tightened. "You mean it's alive?" Mee's lips curved slightly, a hint of a wry smile. "Not alive, but it remembers. It remembers everything we didn't see, everything they tried to hide." She walked slowly around the Apache, eyes scanning each panel, each wire, each sensor as though reading the helicopter's thoughts. The dust swirled around her boots, golden in the fading sunlight. "Commander," she said finally, stopping in front of him, "if you want this bird flying tomorrow, we're not just repairing metal and circuits. We're uncovering a secret someone wanted buried, and whatever's buried, it isn't safe." Briggs swallowed hard. "How long?" Mee lifted her gaze, ice in her eyes. "Long enough for someone to try and stop us, and they will, so don't blink." The wind picked up, rattling the hangar doors with an ominous clang. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the Apache in shadow. In that moment, the helicopter looked more like a sentinel, waiting, watching, almost alive. Mee Keller placed her hand on the fuselage, fingers splayed, palm flat. She whispered under her breath, a mantra of mechanics and instinct. And for the first time in 3 days, the Apache responded. A low hum vibrated through the airframe. Technicians froze. Briggs took a step back, eyes wide. Mee didn't flinch. She tilted her head, listening. Then she turned to Briggs, voice low, deadly calm. "This isn't just a broken helicopter, Commander. Someone left a message in this bird. And if we don't find it, people are going to die." The hangar fell into a tense silence, broken only by the faint hum of a machine that was slowly waking up. Outside, the desert night stretched endlessly, indifferent. Briggs swallowed, glancing at the Apache. "Then we find it tonight." Mee Keller nodded once, eyes fixed on the cockpit. "Tonight we find the truth. And the moment we do," she paused, letting her words sink into the thick desert air, "everything changes." The Apache's sensors blinked again, as if acknowledging her words. And in that shadowed hangar under the desert stars, the battle for Viper 12 had truly begun. Night draped itself over Fort Branson like a velvet curtain. The desert cooled, but the tension inside Hangar 7 only thickened. Viper 12's matte black silhouette loomed in the dim lights, almost sentient, humming faintly like a living creature. Mee Keller didn't flinch. She walked around the aircraft slowly, fingers brushing over panels, rotor blades, and fuselage seams, reading the Apache as if it were a diary written in steel. Technicians hovered, unsure what to do, unwilling to disturb her process. Briggs, normally impatient, found himself holding his breath. Mee didn't consult any tablets, manuals, or diagnostic screens. She didn't ask questions. She listened. A soft tap here, a quick knock there, a tilt of her head, each movement was deliberate. She crouched near the landing gear and pressed her ear to the metal. Silence. Then a barely perceptible vibration ran through the frame. A whisper, almost imperceptible, told her everything the Apache had experienced since its last flight. Briggs stepped closer. "Me, are you?" She didn't answer. She straightened and walked to the cockpit, running her hands along the instrument panel. The sensors blinked faintly under her touch. The lights pulsed in sequence, almost like a heartbeat. Me's eyes narrowed. "This isn't mechanical failure," she said finally, voice low but commanding. The hangar quieted. "Not in the sense you think." A young avionics technician, his voice shaking, spoke up. "Ma'am, we checked everything, wiring, software, hydraulics, everything reads normal." Me turned slowly, eyes narrowing, her gaze cutting through the dim light like a laser. "You've been treating it like it's dead, but it's not dead, it's compromised." Briggs' face darkened. "Compromised by who?" Me didn't answer immediately. She moved to the rear fuselage and tapped lightly along a set of panels. Sparks flickered faintly beneath a bolt. The sound, the vibration, the very feel of the machine told her something the technicians would never see on their screens. "You patched it," she said finally, voice sharp. "But you didn't fix it. You just made it look like you did, and someone made damn sure of that." Briggs swallowed hard. "Who would?" Me cut him off. "That's what we're here to find out, but first we need to know what we're dealing with." She crouched again and pulled out a small magnifying lens from her satchel. Her eyes, sharp as a hawk's, scanned the circuitry with precision no tablet could replicate. Every wire, every microchip, every soldered joint told a story. And then she stopped, eyes widening. A relay, small, almost invisible, foreign, not on any army schematic. Me's voice dropped to a whisper. "This wasn't installed by an army engineer. It's deliberate. Someone wanted this bird to fail, and not just fail, someone wanted it to send a message." The hangar grew colder. Technicians glanced at one another, faces pale. Briggs clenched his jaw. "A message? From who?" Me shook her head. "That's what we're about to find out, but whatever it is, it's hidden in plain sight. No one's supposed to see it. Not you, not me, not even the commander." A low hum suddenly ran through the Apache's frame. A light blinked once, then twice. Technicians yelped. Briggs stepped back, fists clenched. "What the hell?" Me's eyes didn't leave the cockpit. "It's waking up, slowly, carefully, and it knows we're watching." She climbed into the pilot seat, hands moving over the controls with the ease of a master who had lived in the cockpit for decades. She didn't touch the main power. She didn't flick the switches. She just listened. A slight vibration under her fingers, a subtle hum under the seat, enough to tell her that Viper 12 remembered. After 10 tense seconds, she shut off the auxiliary power. She emerged from the cockpit, expression grave. "You've all been treating this like a mechanical failure," she said. "It's not. This is a systemic problem, and someone built it into the Apache intentionally." Briggs ran a hand over his face. "Someone sabotaged it." Me nodded. "They did, and not for destruction, for control. Whoever did this didn't want it broken, they wanted it obedient. They wanted it to act on commands, unseen, unknown, untraceable. And the moment someone tried to hide it, it started sending signals." A young specialist swallowed hard. "Signals from where?" Me didn't answer. She moved quickly to a nearby console and pulled up the maintenance log for Viper 12. Her eyes scanned the entries in seconds. Her mouth tightened. "Here it is," she said. Briggs leaned in. Me pointed to an entry dated 2 months prior, marked as minor electrical repairs by an outside contractor. The notes were vague, insufficient, almost deliberately misleading. Briggs' eyebrows shot up. "What does it mean?" Me's eyes narrowed. "It means they didn't repair it, they covered it up, and whatever they left, it's waking up, right now." Suddenly, the hangar lights flickered. A generator hummed and died. Emergency lighting bathed the room in an eerie red glow. Briggs barked orders to the technicians, but Me ignored them. Her attention was locked on the Apache. The cockpit instruments lit up in a sequence no one had triggered. Panels flickered. Screens displayed random codes, encrypted, incomprehensible, but deliberate. Me exhaled slowly. It's communicating, it's trying to tell us something, and whoever did this, they're not finished. If we don't understand it soon, people are going to get hurt. Briggs felt a chill run down his spine. How do you even start fixing something like that? Keller didn't answer immediately. Instead, she crouched beside the Apache, hand pressed flat against its fuselage. Her lips moved in a silent chant of analysis, instincts honed from decades of flight and repair. The hum grew louder beneath her palm, a deep vibration that seemed almost alive. "This bird isn't just metal and software," she murmured. "It's memory, it's warning, and it's awake because it has to be, because no one else is listening." Briggs stepped closer, voice low. "So we call the higher-ups." Me shook her head. "They won't understand, not this, and whoever tampered with it, they have allies, people who would kill to keep this hidden. We have 48 hours. 48 hours to uncover the truth before Viper 12 goes into operational deployment, and if we fail—" She looked at him, eyes sharp, unyielding. "People will die, and they won't know why." The desert wind rattled the hangar doors. Outside, the stars blinked coldly over the dry expanse. Inside, the hum of a machine that refused to die seemed almost like a heartbeat warning of danger yet unseen. Keller finally stepped back, dust clinging to her boots, and turned to Briggs. "We start now, and Commander, stay close, because the moment this bird speaks, we'll find out just how deep the rabbit hole goes." The technicians held their breath. Briggs swallowed hard. "All right, let's do it." And somewhere deep in the Apache's black frame, hidden circuits whispered in silence, waiting for the veteran who had come to listen. Night deepened over Fort Branson, but inside Hangar 7, time seemed to slow. The Apache Viper 12 loomed like a dark sentinel, its panels reflecting the harsh light of portable flood lamps. Keller crouched beside it, flashlight in hand, inspecting areas no one dared to touch. Beneath wiring harnesses, behind avionics modules, deep inside the electronic bays. Every inch of the helicopter spoke to her. Every hum, vibration, and irregularity a clue hidden in plain sight. Technicians and soldiers hovered at a cautious distance, watching her work with a mix of awe and apprehension. Briggs, normally unshakable, felt the weight of her presence. Every motion she made carried authority, certainty, and the confidence of decades spent flying and fixing helicopters under impossible conditions. Then Me stopped. Her flashlight beam froze on a junction behind the rear avionics panel. A tiny micro-relay, soldered with painstaking precision, glinted faintly under the light. Me's stomach tightened. She crouched closer. Her voice dropped barely above a whisper. "Bingo." Briggs leaned in, squinting. "What is it?" Me shook her head slowly. "Something not from the Army, not from any supply chain we use. This is deliberate. Someone didn't just want this bird to fail, they wanted it to send a signal." The hangar fell silent. Even the hum of the ceiling fan seemed muted. A young avionics tech stammered, "Send a signal." "What kind of signal?" Me's lips pressed into a thin line. "A signal meant to bypass every standard protocol. Something hidden so deep you'd never see it unless you knew what to look for. Someone wanted control, and they wanted secrecy." Briggs' jaw tightened. "Control like what? Remote control or worse?" Me didn't answer. Her eyes scanned the Apache, calculating, listening. Then she pulled the maintenance log from a nearby terminal. Her fingers moved rapidly, scrolling through entries like lightning. Briggs and the technicians leaned in. "Look here," she said, pointing to an entry from 2 months ago. The repair was listed as minor, an electrical short patched by a contractor. Notes were vague, almost careless. Me's eyes narrowed. Not careless, deliberate omission. This was a cover-up. They didn't fix anything, they hid it. And now the Apache remembers. The room went still. Outside, a gust of wind rattled the hangar doors, sending dust swirling in eerie patterns. Suddenly, the Apache's cockpit lights flickered. Panels glowed faintly. Screens displayed random codes, sequences Me recognized from her past work. They weren't random at all. They were deliberate, a hidden transmission protocol. A technician stumbled back. It just turned itself on. Me didn't flinch. She crouched next to the cockpit, hand hovering over the collective. This isn't just turning on, it's trying to communicate. Someone left a message in this bird, and it's activating itself step by step. Briggs ran a hand through his hair, tense. A message from who? Me exhaled slowly. That's what we have to find out. Whoever did this, they left a trail, and it's buried deep inside the flight computer. We're going to have to dig through every circuit, every program, every anomaly. And we have to do it without triggering the safeguards they built in. One wrong move, she paused, eyes hard, and the Apache could lock us out entirely, or worse, harm anyone trying to operate it. The technicians froze. Briggs' hand went to the pistol at his hip, though instinct told him it wouldn't help. Me crouched lower, flashlight illuminating a narrow crevice behind the avionics stack. She pulled out a fine set of tools, delicate yet precise. Hours passed as she worked, soldering, probing, gently testing microcircuits. She didn't glance up, didn't speak, but everyone in the hangar felt the gravity of the moment. Then she straightened, a small frown creasing her forehead. "Found it," she said. A hidden relay and transmitter module embedded deep inside the flight computer. Someone implanted it months ago, disguised as a routine component. No one would notice unless they were looking for it. Briggs leaned in, tense. "What does it do?" Me's gaze hardened. "It sends data, encrypted flight logs, sensor feeds, pilot commands. And it does more. It can override systems remotely, even in flight. Whoever designed this, they turned Viper 12 into a weapon and a spy all at once." A technician swallowed hard. "Remote override, that's illegal, that's criminal." Me nodded. "Exactly, and that's not the worst part. Someone tried to bury it, but it failed. Captain Rowan tried to disable this mid-flight, that's why he died, and now," her voice dropped, "they're still watching, waiting for the next opportunity." Before Briggs could respond, a shrill alarm blared across the base. Lights flashed, red and white. A soldier ran into the hangar, out of breath. "Commander, security breach. Someone's near the perimeter, moving fast, unauthorized." Briggs barked orders. "Team, secure the hangar. Everyone else get to cover." Me didn't move. She remained crouched beside the Apache, eyes scanning every panel, every wire. "They're not here to steal the helicopter," she murmured. "They're here to make sure we don't find anything." The soldiers scrambled. Outside, the shadows of intruders moved along the desert tarmac, running toward a blacked-out truck. One figure raised a metallic object, a gun, a tool, something dangerous. A shot rang out. Sparks flew off the Apache's armor inches from Me's shoulder. Dust and debris filled the air. Me ducked instinctively, heart hammering, sweat slicking her palms. Chaos erupted. Soldiers returned fire, shouting commands. The intruders vanished into the darkness, fleeing into the desert night. Me rose slowly, brushing dust off her sleeves. Her eyes were sharp, cold, calculating. She approached the Apache, hand resting on its cold fuselage. "Commander," she said, voice calm despite the adrenaline, "they weren't here to take it. They were here to protect what they installed. Whatever's inside this bird, someone wants it buried. Permanently." Briggs' face was pale, jaw tight. "Then we're dealing with something bigger than a broken helicopter." Me's lips pressed into a thin line. She stared at the Apache as if it were alive. "Exactly. And whatever they tried to hide inside the flight computer, we haven't even scratched the surface yet." The technicians gathered closer, sensing the weight of what she implied. Me crouched beside the cockpit again, flashlight sweeping across the controls. A small module blinked faintly, its signal dormant but alive. She muttered under her breath, almost to herself, "Come on, girl, show me what they're hiding." And somewhere deep in the Apache's heart, Circuits whispered back. A low hum vibrated through the airframe. Lights flickered, almost like a heartbeat. The helicopter was awake, and Me Keller, veteran of countless impossible missions, was the only one who could understand it. She looked back at Briggs, eyes sharp and unwavering. Tonight, we start uncovering the truth, and the second we do, nothing will ever be the same. Outside, the desert wind swept across the base. Stars twinkled indifferently overhead. Inside Hangar 7, a legendary veteran prepared to face a threat born not from the battlefield, but from someone who had weaponized the very machines meant to protect them. The Apache hummed faintly, waiting. And so did me. The desert night was thick with tension. Inside Hangar 7, Viper 12's faint hum was a constant, vibrating through the floor and into the bones of everyone present. Me Keller crouched beside the Apache, her hands steady but her mind racing. Every wire, every circuit, every microchip pulsed with hidden intent. She knew the helicopter wasn't just broken. It was sending a message, trying to warn someone somewhere about what had been done. Technicians huddled around, some whispering questions Me didn't answer. She didn't need their input. The Apache's signals were subtle, almost imperceptible, but Me could read them like a seasoned pilot reading the wind across the rotor blades. "Commander," she said softly, "this isn't random. The bird is trying to communicate, to tell us something. Someone left a record inside its systems, and it's activating now." Briggs stepped closer, the weight of his responsibility pressing down. "A record? From who?" Me's eyes didn't leave the cockpit. "A pilot, someone who knew too much, someone who tried to stop this." A young technician swallowed hard. "Who?" Me exhaled slowly, tension tight in her chest. "Captain Rowan." Briggs froze. Rowan had been declared dead over a year ago in a supposed training accident. The investigation concluded pilot error. Me's words made the room grow colder than the desert night outside. She opened the access panel beneath the pilot's seat, her flashlight illuminating hidden wiring that no technician had ever dared touch. Deep inside, a microchip blinked faintly, encrypted, sophisticated, unlike anything standard Army systems used. Me's hand hovered over it, knowing that removing it carelessly could erase the message forever or trigger a hidden fail-safe. "This is it," she murmured. "This is the proof of what Rowan discovered." Briggs' voice trembled slightly. "Proof of what?" Me didn't answer immediately. Her eyes scanned the paneling, fingers running over circuits that seemed to hum with tension. Then she carefully extracted the microchip, sliding it into her portable reader. The screen lit up with encrypted data, flight logs, pilot communications, and files labeled with codes that Me recognized from her own years in the field. And then it started, the faint, distorted voice of Captain Rowan crackling through the hangar speakers. "Stop, please, they know." The room went completely silent. Every technician froze, eyes wide. Even Briggs' jaw tightened. The voice was weak, distorted, but unmistakable. Rowan had recorded a message inside Viper 12 before he died. Me's face hardened. He didn't crash because of weather. He didn't crash because of pilot error. He crashed because someone wanted him dead, and he used this helicopter to send a warning. The distorted message continued, fragmented but desperate. "This isn't an accident. They're using the birds, controlling." The audio cut out violently, leaving a ringing silence. The technicians exhaled in unison, and Briggs rubbed his temples, pale and grim. Me's voice was low, deadly calm. "Someone installed a remote control program in this helicopter. They tested it on Rowan. That's why he died. And now that program is active again." A sudden series of flickers ran across the cockpit screens. Random codes scrolled, almost like a language. Me leaned closer, reading the patterns. "This is a distress signal, Commander. It's broadcasting. And whoever built this, they're listening for it, waiting for someone to intercept it." Briggs' face turned pale. "So, whoever did this, they'll know we're onto them." Me nodded grimly. Yes, and they won't hesitate to act. Rowan tried to stop it, they killed him, and now it's our turn if we're not careful. Suddenly, the hangar doors rattled. Outside, the sound of vehicles moving quickly across the tarmac reached them, unauthorized, precise, coordinated. Soldiers raised weapons, shouting orders. Me didn't flinch. "They're here," she murmured. "Not to steal the helicopter, but to make sure we don't find what's inside." The Apache hummed again, almost in warning. Lights on the dashboard flickered like a heartbeat. The technicians and soldiers felt it, a presence, an intelligence, waiting, watching, aware of every movement. Briggs grabbed me's shoulder. "We need to secure the base." Me shook him off gently. "No, not yet. This is the key. If they interfere now, we lose the only proof we have. Viper 12 is the only evidence of what Rowan discovered. We can't let them take it or us." Outside, shadowy figures raced toward a black vehicle parked near the perimeter. One raised an object that glinted in the floodlights, a gun, a tool. They couldn't tell. A sudden shot rang out. Sparks flew from the Apache's fuselage, inches from me's shoulder. Dust exploded into the air. Soldiers returned fire, shouting orders, weapons clashing with the eerie hum of the awakened Apache. Me crouched, steadying herself beside the helicopter. She didn't panic. "Commander," she said, voice firm, "they're not after the helicopter. They're after what's inside. And whatever's inside, they'll kill anyone who touches it." Briggs' voice was tight with tension. "Then we stay here, we fight, we protect it." Me's eyes didn't leave the cockpit. "No, we do more than protect it, we uncover it before they do. Because the moment they realize we found Rowan's message," she paused, letting her words hang like a knife in the air, "they'll come back, and next time they won't hesitate." The desert wind rattled the hangar doors, echoing the tension inside. Viper 12's hum grew stronger, almost like a warning, almost alive, almost anticipating the danger approaching. Me pulled her flashlight across the cockpit screens, highlighting lines of code, encrypted messages, and flight logs hidden deep in the system. Each file was a fragment of Rowan's last desperate attempts to expose the sabotage. Each number, each command sequence, was a piece of the puzzle. A soldier whispered almost to himself, It's talking." Me didn't answer. She leaned closer, tracing a line of encrypted commands with her finger. "Yes, it's talking, and we need to listen, every word, every pattern, because this is bigger than any one helicopter, any one pilot, any one base. This is a system designed to control, manipulate, and kill if left unchecked." Briggs' face hardened. "Then we stop it." Me nodded, eyes never leaving the cockpit. "We stop it, but we do it carefully, because one wrong move," she let the sentence hang, "and the Apache could erase everything Rowan tried to protect, or worse, harm someone trying to access it." The hum pulsed again, stronger, insistent. Me's hand rested lightly on the fuselage. Viper 12 isn't just metal and circuits, it's memory, it's warning, and it's awake because no one else is listening. I am, and if we follow it, we find the truth. The wind outside howled. The desert night seemed endless. Inside Hangar 7, a legendary veteran stared into the heart of a machine that had become more than a helicopter. It was a silent cry for help, a warning from the dead, a message from a ghost, and the only person who could understand it was me, Keller. The Apache's lights pulsed again, faster this time, as if urging action. Me's jaw tightened. "Commander, it's not going to wait for us. If we don't act, Rowan's message dies with us, or worse, it falls into the wrong hands." Briggs exhaled, a mixture of fear and determination. "Then we act together." Me nodded, eyes glinting in the dim light. "Stay close, and stay sharp. The moment we dig deeper," she pressed a hand to the fuselage, listening to the faint vibration, "everything changes." The Apache hummed louder, almost alive, almost anticipating what was coming. Outside, the shadows shifted, waiting. Inside Hangar 7, history, technology, and human courage converged. And the battle to uncover the truth had only just begun. The desert night outside Fort Branson was merciless, wind sweeping dust and grit across the tarmac, carrying the faint echoes of distant vehicles. Inside Hangar 7, the tension was almost suffocating. Viper 12's low hum pulsed like a heartbeat, a silent sentinel watching everyone in the room. Me Keller crouched next to the cockpit, eyes scanning lines of encrypted code, her fingers brushing over panels and circuits with a precision that came from decades of experience. Briggs stood beside her, his eyes darting toward the hangar doors every few seconds. Soldiers were posted around the perimeter, but the shadows of intruders lingered, fleeting glimpses in the dim light. Me didn't flinch. "They're not gone," she said quietly, voice tight with focus. "They're watching, waiting. Whoever tampered with Viper 12, they have allies, people who will kill to keep this secret buried." A young technician swallowed hard. "Ma'am, if they're here to protect whatever's in the bird, why attack us before? Why not take it?" Me didn't answer immediately. Her hand rested on the Apache's fuselage. "They're testing us, probing, making sure we're not fools, and judging by last night, we're very visible." Briggs clenched his jaw. "Visible enough for what?" Me's eyes narrowed. "To eliminate the threat before it grows, and if they fail, they escalate." A faint beep sounded from the microchip Me had extracted, the encrypted file from Rowan's last flight. The device blinked insistently, almost impatiently. Me's eyes sharpened. "They're communicating," she whispered. "Rowan left instructions, not just warnings, instructions, but encrypted. Only someone with the right knowledge can decode it, and we're going to need every ounce of skill to do it." Briggs' face tightened. "Then let's start decoding it." Me shook her head. "Not yet. First, we find the hidden compartment in the flight computer. That's where the real data is. The files, the recordings, the schematics, everything Rowan hid. The microchip alone is a breadcrumb. The Apache knows where the rest is, but it won't reveal itself to just anyone." The soldiers and technicians exchanged uneasy glances. The Apache, usually an obedient machine, now seemed alive, almost aware, almost conscious. Its hum grew louder, pulsing through the hangar floor, through metal, through the bones of everyone present. Me pulled open a small panel beneath the cockpit. Hidden circuits and wiring sprawled out like the veins of some mechanical creature. She traced them carefully, fingers moving like a conductor directing an orchestra. Then she paused, eyes widening. "Commander," she said, voice low, "they've built in a kill switch. Anyone who tries to access the deeper systems without the right key, the Apache will lock them out and potentially trigger a defensive response." Briggs' brow furrowed. "Defensive response." Me's lips pressed into a thin line. "The bird can make itself unusable permanently. Or worse, it can simulate a system malfunction that could endanger anyone in the cockpit. Rowan discovered it too late. That's why he didn't survive." Outside, the faint crunch of tires on gravel drew everyone's attention. A convoy of blacked-out SUVs moved with military precision across the base perimeter, lights off, almost invisible in the desert night. Shadows slipped from the vehicles, armed and ready. Me didn't flinch. "They're back, and this time they're not testing us. They want to stop us before we reach the hidden files." Briggs barked orders. Soldiers fanned out, weapons trained on the dark horizon. "Lock down the hangar, do not let anyone in." Me ignored the gunfire potential. She focused on the Apache, tracing circuits, connecting threads of data. "We need to access the internal logs," she muttered. "There's a sequence Rowan left, coordinates, passwords, encryption keys, everything we need. But it's delicate. One wrong move and we lose it all." A faint vibration ran through the helicopter. Its sensors blinked rapidly, almost like a heartbeat quickening. Me listened intently, noting the irregularities, the deliberate pauses, the hidden patterns embedded in the code. Then a sudden shadow passed across the hangar doors. One of the intruders was close, too close. A faint click echoed through the air, the sound of a lock being tampered with. Me's eyes narrowed. They're inside, Commander, now. Briggs motioned soldiers to intercept, but Me was already moving. She slid into the cockpit, hands steady on the controls. The Apache's hum pulsed faster, almost anticipating her actions. She keyed in the sequence Rowan had left on the microchip. Screens flickered, encrypted lines dancing across the display like a secret language only she could read. Outside, intruders began smashing locks, forcing doors open. Shadows moved fast, silent, deadly. Bullets pinged off metal as soldiers engaged them, but Me didn't flinch. Her focus was entirely on the sequence, the Apache's sensors, the hidden files buried deep inside. Then it happened. The cockpit lit up with a soft glow. A hidden compartment in the avionics bay opened, revealing a stack of microchips, encrypted drives, and flight logs. Me's heart raced. Rowan's message wasn't just a warning, it was a blueprint. A map to the network controlling the compromised Apache across multiple bases. "They've left us the entire system," she whispered, eyes scanning the drives. "Everything Rowan discovered, it's all here." Briggs stepped closer, voice tense. "Then we take it and get out of here." Me shook her head slowly. "No, we need to decode it now, before they realize what we have." The hum of the Apache grew louder, pulsing through the hangar like a heartbeat racing toward panic. Outside, the intruders had breached the perimeter. Shadows flickered under floodlights. The air was thick with tension, the scent of dust, gunpowder, and fear. Me began transferring the data from the drives to her portable reader. Lines of code scrolled faster than anyone could comprehend. Encryption after encryption, each more sophisticated than the last, but Me's hands moved with a precision born of years tamming machines like this. Then a sudden jolt shook the hangar. The Apache shuddered violently. The intruders were inside. One figure lunged toward the cockpit, gun raised. Me reacted instantly, slamming the Apache's controls into emergency lockdown. The figure froze, caught in an invisible barrier of electronics and hydraulics. Briggs and soldiers engaged the intruders directly, the clash of weapons echoing through the hangar. Me didn't flinch. She continued decoding, sweat slicking her palms, fingers flying across the small keyboard, eyes scanning for hidden traps, rogue commands, and fail-safes. Minutes stretched into hours. The Apache hummed, alive, alert, almost guiding her hands. Me knew the moment she finished decoding, the truth would be revealed, and with it, the enemy would know they had been intercepted. Finally, with a final keystroke, the system unlocked. A flood of data streamed onto her reader. Flight logs, sabotage schematics, encryption keys, and Rowan's final notes. The Apache's hum softened, almost like a sigh of relief. Me leaned back, exhausted but triumphant. "We have it," she said, voice shaking slightly. "Rowan left us everything, but now they'll come back, and next time they won't just test us, they'll try to kill us." Outside, the desert wind howled. Shadows retreated into the darkness, but the threat remained. Somewhere hidden, the architects of the sabotage were watching, waiting for the moment to strike again. Me pressed a hand to the Apache's fuselage. "You kept your secret for Rowan," she whispered. "Now we'll keep it for you and finish what he started." Briggs exhaled, tension finally giving way to grim determination. "Then we finish this together." The Apache's low hum pulsed like a heartbeat in the night. The desert stretched endlessly beyond the hangar, indifferent. Inside, a veteran and a commander prepared for the battle ahead, aware that the shadows would not rest, and that the war for truth was just beginning. The desert sky was now a deep indigo, stars scattered like pinpricks above the horizon, indifferent to the tension below. Inside Hangar 7, Viper 12 sat like a coiled predator, its matte black body gleaming faintly under the emergency lights. Me Keller leaned over the cockpit, hands flying across the controls as she decrypted the last of Rowan's files. Each line of code, each encrypted log, was a breadcrumb leading to the truth, truth the enemy had tried to bury. Briggs stood beside her, eyes darting to the perimeter. The earlier skirmish with intruders had revealed the severity of the threat. Whoever had sabotaged Viper 12 was not working alone. Shadows in the desert were part of a network, organized, patient, lethal. "They'll be back," Briggs muttered, voice low. "And next time they'll bring more than a few shooters." Me didn't look up. "Let them come," the Apache remembers. Rowan left instructions. "If we follow them, we'll know exactly who we're dealing with." The Apache's hum pulsed beneath her fingers, synchronized with her breathing. It was almost alive, as if it understood the urgency. The screens in front of her blinked rapidly, lines of code cascading down like streams of water. Hidden in those streams were coordinates, access codes, schematics, and logs detailing the Shadow Organization's network. Me's lips pressed into a thin line. Rowan left us a map, a blueprint of the sabotage program and its creators. If we trace this correctly, we can stop them before they can strike again. Briggs' voice was tight. "Trace them? You mean go after the people who did this?" Me nodded slowly. "Yes, but we have to be careful. They know we're onto them. And whatever resources they have, they'll use every one of them to keep their secret." The hangar doors rattled again. Outside, the desert wind carried a faint, deliberate crunch of boots across gravel. Me's eyes flicked to the sensors on Viper 12. The Apache's lights blinked, a warning, almost a heartbeat. Someone was approaching. Briggs barked orders to the perimeter soldiers. "Secure the hangar. Do not let anyone in." Me ignored him. Her focus remained on the cockpit. She keyed in a series of commands from Rowan's decrypted files. The Apache responded instantly. The lights in the cockpit flashed, rotor blades twitched slightly, and the onboard systems hummed with renewed life. "It's ready," Me said quietly. "And if they try to breach this hangar again, Viper 12 will defend itself and us." Outside, shadowy figures crested the ridge of the tarmac. Armed, organized, moving with the precision of military training. Me's pulse quickened. This wasn't a random attack, it was a calculated strike. Briggs muttered under his breath, "They're not here for the helicopter. They're here for you for the information." Me's fingers flew across the controls, overlaying Rowan's coordinates with the current position of intruders. "We don't have much time. If they reach the Apache, the data is gone. We need to move now." With a fluid motion, Me lifted the canopy. The Apache's systems roared to life, lights blinking, rotor blades spinning as if sensing the imminent threat. Briggs and the soldiers moved aside. Me's eyes flicked to the exterior cameras. She could see the intruders approaching, unaware of the machine awakening behind them. "Hold them off," Me commanded. "Viper 12 has a mind of its own now, but we need to protect it until we're airborne." Bullets ricocheted off metal as soldiers engaged the intruders outside. Me's hand hovered over the flight controls. She didn't need to touch them. Viper 12 responded instinctively, sensors tracking targets, weapon systems primed, engines humming in anticipation. The Apache was alive, not just a machine, but a sentinel protecting secrets buried by death and deceit. A shadow moved across the hangar floor. Me turned just in time to see an intruder sprint toward the cockpit. Instinctively, she slammed a button. The canopy locked automatically, trapping the intruder outside. Sparks flew as he tried to pry it open. Me exhaled sharply. The Apache's automated defense system had done its job. Briggs fired into the shadows, shouting orders. "Me, get us airborne." She keyed the ignition sequence. The rotors spun faster, lifting Viper 12 slightly off the ground. The hum was deafening now, a living, breathing sound that filled the hangar. Sensors flared, lights flashed, and the intruders froze, realizing the machine they tried to manipulate had turned on them. One by one, the intruders retreated, shadows melting into the darkness of the desert. Me guided the Apache out of the hangar with precise movements, lifting into the night sky. The wind whipped past, engines roaring, rotor blades slicing through the cool night air. Above the desert, the base was a grid of lights, a landscape of concrete and steel beneath the endless stars. Me's eyes scanned Rowan's decrypted files. Coordinates led her to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the state, a place marked as a communications hub for the sabotage network. Briggs leaned forward, voice tense. "That's where we find the rest of them." Me nodded. "And the proof we need to expose the network completely. Rowan left it all there, but if they know we're coming, it won't be easy." The Apache's sensors picked up movement on the ground, distant lights flashing intermittently. Me adjusted her course. "Those are patrols. They're watching the warehouse, making sure no one approaches, but they're not expecting us from above." As the Apache swooped low, the desert stretched below them, dark and foreboding. Me guided Viper 12 with the confidence of a veteran, instincts honed through decades of flight and combat. She didn't need instruments. The Apache responded to her every thought, every command, as if it recognized her as the only pilot capable of unlocking its secrets. Then faint signals appeared on the onboard scanner, encrypted radio transmissions, faint pings echoing from the warehouse. Me's eyes narrowed. "That's it. They're transmitting, trying to coordinate. If we can intercept it, we can map their network completely." Briggs' voice was tight with tension. "And if they detect us?" Me didn't flinch. "They won't, not yet. Rowan left traps, decoys, false channels. If we follow the correct sequence, we stay invisible. But one wrong move," she let the threat hang in the night air, "and they'll know we're coming. And then it's a fight we might not survive." The Apache dipped, sensors locking onto the warehouse. Me's hands moved instinctively, activating the surveillance pods, scanning frequencies, decoding signals as she guided the helicopter closer. The building loomed ahead, dark, fortified, filled with the shadows of men who would kill to protect their secret. Me's jaw tightened. "We're close, very close, but stay sharp. The moment they realize what we've done, everything changes." The rotors cut through the desert wind, carrying me, Briggs, and Viper 12 into the unknown. Every second was a countdown. Every shadow on the ground could be a threat. Every signal pulsing through the Apache was a clue or a trap. And somewhere deep in the cockpit, the hum of the machine was almost like a heartbeat, a living, breathing presence guiding them toward Rowan's hidden truth. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, indifferent. But inside Viper 12, history, technology, and human courage converged. The shadows in the warehouse didn't know it yet, but tonight, the hunter would become the hunted. The desert below stretched like a black sea, only faintly broken by scattered lights from distant roads and isolated facilities. Viper 12 glided silently above, its rotors slicing through the night air with the precision of a predator. Me Keller sat in the cockpit, her eyes scanning Rowan's decrypted files on the portable console. Every line of code, every sequence, every coordinate was a step deeper into the shadow network that had cost the life of a brave pilot and compromised the nation's most advanced Apache. Briggs sat beside her, gripping his harness, eyes fixed on the dark warehouse below. "You sure about this?" he asked, voice low but edged with tension. Me didn't answer immediately. She studied the building below, a fortress of steel and concrete, its perimeter dotted with guards, cameras, and automated defenses. "Yes," she said finally. "Rowan's files lead here, the command hub for their sabotage network and the evidence we need to expose them. But it's going to be dangerous. They're expecting threats from the ground, not the sky. That's our advantage for now." The Apache descended carefully, sensors scanning for tripwires, hidden turrets, and electronic defenses. The warehouse loomed ahead, dark, forbidding, a fortress built to hide secrets deadly enough to kill anyone who stumbled upon them. Me keyed the override from Rowan's files, disabling the external alarms for a narrow window. Briggs leaned forward, whispering, "That's insane. We're flying straight into their lair." Me's jaw tightened. "We're not flying in blind. Rowan left instructions. If we follow them precisely, we can get inside without triggering any failsafe. But if we deviate, even slightly, we're dead. The Apache dipped lower, rotor wash stirring sand and debris across the surrounding desert. Mi's hands flew across the controls, precision movements honed over decades of combat. The hum of the helicopter was almost sentient, synchronizing with her heartbeat, anticipating the movements of the intruders below. Outside, shadows shifted in the dim light. Guards patrolled methodically, unaware of the black helicopter gliding silently above. Mi keyed the microchip sequence again, sending encrypted signals to intercept and loop the facility's cameras. The sensors in the warehouse flickered as the system misread the approach. Almost there, Mi muttered, sweat beading at her temples. She adjusted the flight path slightly, the Apache responding with flawless precision. Every movement was calculated, every second counted. The Apache's sensors picked up the first sign of resistance. A guard had stepped outside the range of the camera loop, flashlight sweeping the desert. The man froze, spotting the shadow of the hovering helicopter above. Mi's eyes narrowed. One flick of a switch, and the Apache deployed a low-intensity EMP pulse, short-circuiting his radio and temporarily blinding his flashlight. Briggs exhaled, tension in his shoulders easing slightly. "You're incredible," he muttered. Mi's lips pressed into a thin line. "Focus, we're not safe yet." They descended to a rooftop landing pad, cleverly hidden behind ventilation units and satellite dishes. Mi shut down the engines once landed, letting the hum fade to a near-silent vibration through the building. The air was thick with tension. They were inside the enemy's lair, but the danger was far from over. Mi slid open the canopy, her tactical harness ready, and motioned to Briggs. "Stay close. Follow the files exactly. One wrong step, one wrong door, and it could be a trap." Briggs nodded, gripping his sidearm. "Lead the way." They moved through the shadows on the roof, Mi guiding him to a service door hidden behind industrial vents. Rowan's decrypted files had mapped the internal security systems, laser grids, pressure sensors, and motion detectors. Mi's hands traced the sequences in the air as if she could see the invisible barriers. "Watch the floors," she whispered. "The sensors aren't just motion, they're weight-sensitive. Standard footfalls trigger alarms." They moved slowly, shadows among shadows, descending a narrow stairwell into the bowels of the warehouse. The air was stale, metallic, and thick with the scent of oil and electronics. Mi led Briggs past rows of servers, racks of monitors, and crates stamped with anonymous logos. Every step was deliberate, every sound measured. Finally, they reached a reinforced door marked with security codes Rowan had decrypted. Mi keyed in the sequence, fingers flying across the keypad. Lights blinked, relays clicked, and the door slid open silently, revealing a room filled with monitors, encrypted servers, and the unmistakable signs of a high-level command hub. Briggs' eyes widened. This is it. This is where they run everything." Mi didn't respond immediately. Her eyes scanned the room, taking in the cables snaking across the floor, encrypted drives stacked like dominoes, and a bank of monitors flashing faint signals. Each terminal displayed real-time data from Apache across the country, systems compromised, flight logs intercepted, commands remotely executed. "They're controlling more than just Viper 12, Mi muttered, voice low, deadly calm. "They've weaponized multiple Apache, and Rowan discovered the hub. That's why he died." A soft beep sounded from one of the terminals, a new incoming transmission. Mi's eyes flicked to the screen. Encrypted messages scrolled rapidly, someone trying to regain control of the compromised systems. "They know we're here," she whispered, "and they're trying to lock us out." Briggs glanced around, teeth clenched. "We've got to stop them now." Mi's hands moved quickly, bypassing firewalls and decoding layers of encryption. Rowan's sequences guided her, allowing her to trace the origins of the commands, pinpointing the individuals behind the sabotage network. Every moment was tense, every keystroke a risk. The system could trigger traps, alarms, or worse, defensive countermeasures designed to harm intruders. Outside the room, faint footsteps echoed. Guards were closing in. Me glanced at Briggs. "They're here. We have minutes, maybe seconds." Briggs tightened his grip on his weapon. "Let's finish this." Me entered the final command sequence and the screens blinked. Data poured into her portable reader. Files, schematics, flight logs, encrypted voice recordings from Rowan, and the names of the people orchestrating the sabotage. "They've left their entire network exposed," Me whispered, awe in her voice. "Rowan did it. He prepared this for someone he trusted to finish what he started, and that someone is us." Suddenly, the reinforced door behind them burst open. Shadows flooded the room, armed men with tactical gear, trained, ready to kill. Briggs stepped in front of me, weapon raised. "You picked the wrong night to mess with us," he growled. Me didn't flinch. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, activating a series of countermeasures embedded in the Apache's files. Remote EMP pulses, server lockdowns, and digital traps. The lights flickered, alarms blared, and guards stumbled, electronics sparking, communications cut. "They're slowing them down," Briggs muttered, eyes wide. "How did you?" Me's lips pressed into a thin line. "Rowan prepared for this. He trusted someone would follow the map, and that someone is me." The intruders regrouped, but Me and Briggs moved with purpose, carrying the drives, bypassing remaining guards, and following Rowan's final coordinates to an extraction point on the far side of the warehouse. The Apache's engines roared back to life on the roof, lights cutting through the night. Me and Briggs climbed aboard, the helicopter's systems humming like a living thing, sensing their urgency, synchronizing with every movement. As they lifted off, leaving the shadowed warehouse behind, Me's eyes scanned the desert. "We have the evidence, but they won't stop. They never do, and they'll come back stronger." Briggs exhaled, voice tight but determined. "Then we'll be ready." Me placed a hand on the console, listening to the soft hum of Viper 12. "Rowan's ghosts guided us here," she said. "Now it's our turn to finish what he started, and if we fail, millions could die without ever knowing why." The desert night stretched endlessly below them, indifferent. But above, a legendary veteran and a commander in the world's most advanced attack helicopter had found the heart of a deadly conspiracy, and they weren't stopping until the truth was revealed. The first rays of dawn had begun slicing across the desert horizon, painting the sky in blood orange and violet streaks. Viper 12 hovered above the rugged terrain, rotors slicing the cool morning air with a whisper that was almost reverent. Me Keller's eyes were locked on the horizon, but her mind ran through Rowan's decrypted files repeatedly. Each line of code, each schematic, each name from the sabotage network was a thread she now held in her hands, threads she had to pull carefully, or the entire web would collapse on her. Briggs sat beside her, gripping the harness, jaw tight, eyes scanning the terrain below. The extraction had been smooth, but the enemy's reaction time would be rapid. Every shadow could hide snipers, drones, or automated defenses. Me didn't speak. She rarely did when she was preparing. The Apache seemed almost alive beneath her hands, sensors humming faintly as if it could feel the tension radiating from its pilot. Me keyed in the final sequence from Rowan's files, mapping a path to a remote desert facility, one that the network used as its command center, its heart. "We're going in," she said finally, voice calm but charged with steel. "And when we get there, we end this. Rowan's plan, our plan, it all ends tonight." Briggs exhaled, tension cracking slightly. "Then let's finish it." The Apache descended toward the facility, a fortress of concrete and steel surrounded by barbed wire, surveillance towers, and what looked like dozens of armed guards. Me adjusted the rotor tilt, keeping their approach low and silent. The facility's sensors flickered, trying to detect their presence, but Rowan's files had anticipated everything. Me keyed the override, Lights on the perimeter cameras blinked and froze. The external alarms looped false positives, giving them the edge. "We're invisible," she whispered. "For now." The Apache landed on the flat roof of the facility with a near-silent thump, rotor wash sending dust and debris into the air. Me and Briggs climbed out immediately, tactical harnesses ready, drives in hand containing the decrypted evidence of the sabotage network. The air was heavy with anticipation. Every shadow seemed alive. Every sound was a potential threat. They slipped through service doors, following Rowan's map, bypassing sensors, and moving with the precision of trained predators. The interior of the facility was a maze of corridors lined with servers, monitors, and encrypted terminals. Every step brought them closer to the core, and every step carried the risk of discovery. Me paused before a reinforced door, the heart of the network. Her fingers hovered over the keypad. She keyed the final code, breath steady. The door clicked, relays hummed, and the steel barrier slid open. Inside was a room filled with monitors, servers, and most importantly, the masterminds behind the Apache sabotage. 3 men and a woman, the architects of deception, orchestrating attacks, manipulating Apache, and covering their tracks. Briggs whispered, "So that's them, the ghosts." Me's eyes narrowed. "And they don't know we're here, not yet." One of the men turned, glancing at a monitor. His eyes widened as he saw encrypted alerts flooding the system. Viper 12 sensors had already started feeding back, exposing their network, intercepting communications, and revealing the locations of every compromised Apache. "What the hell?" one of them muttered. Me stepped forward, hand on her sidearm but calm, commanding. "You thought Rowan's death would bury the truth. You thought hiding in the shadows would keep your crimes secret. You were wrong." The woman reached for a panic button. Instantly, security systems triggered. Alarms blared, metal shutters descended, and automated defenses activated. Me didn't flinch. She pressed a button on the portable console. Viper 12's override fed into the network remotely, disabling the defenses and freezing the intruder's systems. Briggs moved forward, weapon raised. "It's over. Step away from the controls." The room erupted into chaos. The intruders tried to fight back, but the evidence, the decrypted files, and the Apache systems gave me the upper hand. Every terminal they touched displayed their crimes, every command they tried to execute was blocked, and every attempt to escape was predicted by Rowan's instructions embedded in Viper 12. Me pressed forward, voice cold. "You've controlled Apache, endangered pilots, killed Rowan and countless others, but not anymore. You are exposed, and justice will find you." One of the men lunged at a terminal, trying to erase files. Me anticipated the move, swinging her arm and pressing the override. The screens flashed and the terminal locked permanently. "Not today," she said. The woman behind the console tried to escape toward a service door, but Briggs intercepted her, gun trained, eyes unyielding. "Going somewhere." The last intruder reached for a weapon concealed under the desk. Viper 12's automated defense system, now fully integrated with Rowan's sequence, delivered a non-lethal but incapacitating shock through the metal flooring. He collapsed, convulsing, and the room fell silent but for the faint hum of electronics. Me exhaled slowly, eyes sweeping the room. "It's done," she said. "The network is dismantled. The Apache program is secure. Rowan's sacrifice was not in vain." Briggs lowered his weapon slightly, looking at her with a mixture of awe and relief. You actually did it, all of it." Me's gaze softened briefly, resting on the servers and the monitors displaying the truth of the network. "We did it. Rowan left a path. He trusted someone to follow it. I just made sure we walked it carefully and survived." Outside, the sun had risen fully, casting long shadows across the desert. The wind carried the faint scent of dust and sand, indifferent to the human drama that had unfolded beneath it. Viper 12 waited silently on the rooftop, rotors ready, sensors alert, almost like a sentinel proud of its pilot. Me approached the Apache, placing a hand on its fuselage. You kept your promise, girl. You protected the truth, and now we carry it forward. Briggs watched the horizon, tension finally easing from his posture. And the world doesn't even know how close it came to disaster. Me nodded. But we know, and that's what matters. Rowan's message has been delivered. The network dismantled. The Apache are safe for now. A soldier outside the facility approached cautiously. Ma'am, the authorities are on their way. The evidence, the criminals, everything will be secured. Me exhaled, glancing back at Briggs. We did our part. The rest will take care of itself. For the first time that night, she allowed herself a faint smile. The Apache's hum vibrated beneath her hand, almost like a purr of approval. They had survived the impossible, outsmarted the unseen, and completed a mission that had started with loss and secrecy. Yet me knew the fight wasn't over. Shadow networks could emerge again. Humans could manipulate machines, and the line between control and chaos remained fragile. But for now, above the desert, justice had been served. Viper 12 lifted off the rooftop silently, me guiding it into the morning sky. The desert stretched below them, endless, unforgiving, but alive with possibility. Briggs leaned back, voice quieter than usual. Where to now? Me's eyes scanned the horizon, thoughtful. We fly forward, we remain vigilant, and we honor those who paid the price to keep the truth alive. The Apache roared into the sky, a legendary machine paired with a legendary pilot. Together, they disappeared into the sunlit horizon, a symbol of courage, resilience, and the unyielding pursuit of justice. And somewhere in the circuits and hum of the Apache, Rowan's legacy lived on, proof that one person's courage, guided by experience and honor, could change the course of history.